The white power groundswell that I'm talking about is certainly a fringe movement. I don't have numbers to give you for today because they don't exist. We haven't done a good job either at the governmental level or at the informal level in arranging data about this movement as it happens. In the earlier period, I can give you a sense of what we're looking at and what we might likely be encountering today, but it'll take another 10 or 20 years, I think, before we have these kinds of numbers. What we're talking about is a fringe movement, but one that's comparable in size with much better known things like the John Birch Society. So membership numbers are also a terrible measure of this activity because groups have the interest of destroying their own membership lists, and because after leaderless resistance, these groups aren't trying to turn out 3,000 people for a public rally. They're trying to turn out 12 people who are willing to plant a bomb. So these numbers go up and down and don't always forecast the impact of this violence. Nevertheless, if we're looking at the 1980s, we can think of this as a series of concentric circles. In the middle are around 25,000 hardcore activists. These are people who live and breathe the movement. They marry in the movement, they go to church in the movement, they share resources with each other, and they're deeply involved. Those are the people who can sometimes be taken down the course of leaderless resistance, violent action. Outside of this is another 150 to 175,000 people. They don't do they don't have their whole life absorbed into the movement in that way, but they do things like send financial contributions, buy and read the literature, and attend rallies and other movement events. Outside of that is another 450,000 people. They don't themselves subscribe to the newspapers, but they read them with regularity. The thing we have to think about for our present moment, I think, is the more diffuse circle, which is also larger, around the outside of this, where there are people who would never read something that says official newspaper of the Knights of the KKK, but who might agree with the ideas that are presented in it, especially if they come from someone trusted or through a social relationship. So this mode of organizing does two things. It pushes ideas from the radical, hardcore members in the middle out into the mainstream of American politics, and it pulls in people who can be radicalized and turned into soldiers for the movement.